Hello everyone, my name is Dakota Eldridge and I'm a graduate student of Liberty University's School of Aeronautics. I want to take this opportunity to welcome you all to my Aviation 681 Capstone project presentation on developing the next generation of Army aviation leaders in the Kentucky National Guard. For today's agenda, I'll provide a quick introduction of the organization I provided the service project for and take a look at the background as to why I selected that organization. We'll take a look at the project statements themselves to include the thesis. We'll identify some terms and definitions necessary to understand as we move throughout this project, and we'll really look at our biblical foundation that this entire project is based on. After that, we'll get into our literature review that drove the implementation section of the project execution with the organization. We'll highlight the outcomes and deliverables that the organization currently uses and is going to use enduring into the future. I'll provide a brief project reflection and then summarize everything in closing. So without further ado, this organization is a part of the Kentucky Army National Guard. I am a UH-60 Mike pilot, currently assigned to Bravo Company 2147 Aviation. We are headquartered out of Frankfort, Kentucky, at the Army Aviation Support Facility. So this organization, I've been in the organization for approximately 6 months now, and all across the Army, especially the Kentucky Army National Guard, we are struggling with a mid-level experience gap, meaning we have a lot of junior pilots and we have a lot of seasoned pilots. However, of those seasoned pilots, we have several that are nearing retirement. For the Kentucky National Guard, 6 of our aviators have over 12,000 combined flight hours, and they are all due to retire within the next year. Our next senior pilot has a mere fraction of the hours that these professional aviators have over the course of their career. The remainder of our formation is all underneath 500 total flight hours. So our current pilots that are going through development for our pilot and command position don't have the extensive operational leadership experience necessary to continue operating in a safe manner the way the Kentucky Army National Guard has here for the past several years. So that is a significant issue that we addressed in this service project. For our project statements, the problem really identified and overall for the U.S. Army is to how do we optimize our teaching, training, and mentoring of the next generation while maintaining our operational standards and safety excellence with all of these guys retiring? How do we bridge that gap for the next generation of leaders? Our purpose statement really dives into providing a recommended training plan to improve the human factor and leadership development throughout the pilot and command progression. We specifically target the pilot and command level, and we'll identify more in detail why that is later. For our thesis statement, expanding on scenario-based training exercises designed to build leadership and aviation human factor competencies using training resources such as aircrew coordination and simulations-based technology will significantly enhance the individual and organizational competencies in Army aviators undergoing pilot and command progression. So some terms and definitions necessary to know for this. Progression is really the Army's deliberate development models for aviators as they move throughout their career. It begins with readiness level progression, then pilot and command, which is the first level of leadership, and then ultimately up to air mission commander, which is once you've commanded a single aircraft, how do we command multiple aircrafts in a lift? The pilot in command is a very specific role, commensurate to the captain's position at the airlines. It is the designated aviator with a final decision-making authority and has the responsibility for everything the aircrew does or fails to do. Aircrew coordination training is also very similar to the civil aviation crew resource management. The terms will be used synonymously throughout this presentation. And then finally, a training support package is a prepared guidance for organizations with supporting products to help them train and develop specific skill sets. So for this project, we specifically look at the pilot and command level. Further laying our foundation is our biblical reference. So for this project and any leadership development project that I would say an organization undergoes, we're really going to be focusing on the essence of biblical leadership. In 1 Peter 4:10, the Bible teaches us, as one has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace. We all have been endowed with very amazing gifts, each of us according to what God has planned for our lives. And it is our responsibility to make sure that we're implementing that to the best of our ability within our organizations. As a part of that, leadership development is the essential aspect of that biblical stewardship within our organizations. In a 2024 article published by Perkins and Shortland, leaders are seen as stewards and servants of God's kingdom. We are called to transform and reform the world according to divine principles. So we utilize what the Bible teaches us in order to make sure that we are bettering our organizations. And this is the biblical foundation that really transcends the rest of this project, especially as we look through our literature. So getting into our literature review. The literature review for this project was primarily conducted through three lenses: aviation human factors, leadership development itself, and then leveraging simulations-based technology. All of these combined help develop a better picture of how we can develop the next generation of piloting commands. So starting with human factors, what we're really looking at human factors is that the specific development is a professional development aspect for our crew through crew resource management. Again, with leadership development, we're really focusing on all of the broad spectrum of aviation human factors, especially leading in the cockpit. In a 2023 article published by Choi, the author states, improving and establishing culture in the organization and proactively managing human factors training is necessary for effective crew integration. So, and throughout this project, we really took a look at the organizational culture and how they're managing human factors training deliberately. Moving on to our second lens is our leadership development. We have our crew resource management, which facilitates leadership development through feedback. One of the things that was prolific throughout our study was the essence of feedback in terms of development. Forbes et al. In a 2024 article also published, that leadership development is an organizational commitment, and that helps build buy-in and members of the organization feel like they're supported in their development. Without that feedback, these organizations tend to struggle with leadership development programs. And then finally, after determining the first two essences of what to train, we looked at how are we going to train it. So for this one, Korecki et al. In a 2024 article published that the simulations-based training environment helps provide clarification and acquisition of habits by covering the entire range of methodological training. And we can do that through simulations-based technology that mitigates the safety risks by having inexperienced pilots making decisions in the cockpit. When we do that effectively, in conjunction with targeted human factors and our leadership development, we're really getting the best benefit for our PCs as they go throughout that. So for these three lenses really developed the activities as well as the outcomes specific for this project. So for the implementation execution, again, this service project was conducted at the Army Aviation Support Facility for the Kentucky Guard. It conducted into three phases. The first phase was initial collection of information. An initial survey was executed during our first drill weekend during this final term, where 10 of the 25 pilots participated. It was completely voluntary based, so that is actually a significant number of individuals that wanted to just provide their experiences in their pilot command development, as well as their future projections for their own personal development in terms of human factors and leadership. Also conducted as part of phase one were interviews. The plan was originally to start out with our interviews. However, The project ended up being extremely fluid with our interviews just throughout due to the time and availability. But that was a significant benefit because as the project continued, it helped develop further and further more clarification as to what was needed as we move forward. And then it also helped with the feedback mechanisms created later. The second phase really was looking at our training scenario development, and then how do we look at developing our PC progression training plan. So for that, training observations, we conducted a total of 18 hours, mostly in an aircraft. However, there was one simulator session that saw the development of an AAR document, or an after action review document that incorporated specific targeted feedback for pilot and command's progression flights that significantly helped the organization. Of those training scenarios, to help provide that feedback and put stress and challenge our current developing PCs, we focused on developing 6 of them, 2 of them being tactical concept of operations that helped meet realistic mission integration standards, also necessary for developing pilot and commands. So for our outcomes and deliverables, we really targeted the assertiveness and decision making based on the human factors feedback that we provided. And then the second thing was a standardization of PC expectations. Again, going back to the literature, organizational commitment to developing leaders and human factors is what helps create buy-in. We had enough non-standardization across the unit that there was creating frustrations and then different standards throughout the organization that really impacted the organization as a whole. We conducted a complete review of the PC, or the pilot and command checklist, which is a list of elements necessary to help that, to include building in capacities for human factors, leadership development, decision making, and then overall judgment. As a part of this, we really got some buy-in from our PCs. They started immediately hit the ground running with our training plans, the training support package that was provided, and then the feedback helped so significantly that the organization developed a standardization to use that as a whole. As you can see on the right side of the screen, there are training concepts. This is one of the tactical concepts that we created that's available to be published for our PCs to be able to use and make decisions to help our soldiers develop. So as we reflect on this project, again, I cannot thank the professional aviators as a part of Bravo 2147 for allowing me the opportunity to do that. The organization definitely demonstrated that they are stewards of the organization and are committed to getting better. Being present during training by far exceeds the essence of reading things in a book. So being able to identify trends and issues definitely helped out the organization and then helped my developmental process throughout the entire service project. As a part of that, understanding that development process is better than a destination, right? Again, prefacing the process of development rather than achieving pilot and command is what is the ultimate goal. That way the organization continues to learn long term. And then by integrating our biblical scriptures across every aspect of not only in this project, but the program as a whole with Liberty University, I truly feel like I got the opportunity to live my favorite verse, which is 1 Corinthians 15:10. But by the grace of God, I am what I am. And I am able to remember that and emphasize that throughout my entire development so I can be better Christian and achieve the Great Commission. So in summary, our biblical foundation of biblical stewardship transcended the entire project and really brought everything together. The organization absolutely needs to focus on leadership and aviation human factor development to make sure that we're bridging that gap before our experienced pilots end up retiring. The project implementation was not just an immediate impact, but it is a catalyst for future development. As a whole, I and the organization are better for it. Again, thank you for listening. I pray you all have a great night.